Welcome to Pie Talk, a show about media like games and movies where we eat pizza and talk about them. So grab yourself a slice, roll it up, sit back, and enjoy.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Pie Talk. This is the episode 1.3 because, the first two times were not enough to get our feet wet in this medium of podcasting. So we're talking about our 2024 games that we played this year, and we're going to go and start off not with the best games that we played, but we're going to start off with the games that we hated in 2024. And they don't have to be from 2024, but it's what we played and what we disliked and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to start out with something that I think Slaughter is going to have some interest in, which is Starfield. I was so excited for this game when it came out, and it still has mixed reviews. But it came out, I played like 4 hours of Starfield on the Xbox when it came out because it was free on the Xbox day one. And it was like they basically took, how do I describe it even better than this? They basically took their same idea of what's it called? The dragon game that they had.
Skyrim.
Yeah, they basically took Skyrim, gave it better graphics, and took the same language models and like everything else and just loaded up the space version of Skyrim.
I like that. A game so bad you forgot about Skyrim.
I know. I'm like, oh my god.
It's so disappointing.
I know. I was so damn excited for this game. I was like ready to go. I'm glad I didn't pre-order it. This is almost as bad as Skull and Bones, but that's a different conversation.
Ooh. Oh, man.
Yeah. Oh my god, I was pissed at that game too. Ubisoft got 70 out of me for that one, and they could go
That's tough, man.
suck a big wiener for that one.
I'm in the same boat. I'm in the same boat as you regarding Starfield. It's something that I feel like a lot of people had their eyes on for a while. Like fans of Fallout and the Elder Scrolls series and whatnot. Granted, this is probably my least favorite setting to have all this stuff in, like sci-fi outer space.
Really?
But yeah, for sure. That's just like least favorite for me. But
Okay.
this game came out and it was making more waves during the like announcement and during the hype, and it came out and it just came out to like a kind of limp wee 3 out of 10 launch. I feel like.
Oh yeah.
Like nobody was talking.
Dude, they
about
made
it.
a
Nobody I
watch.
knew was talking about it.
They made a Starfield
Starfield?
like $400 like it was like not an Omega one, but it was one of those other like Seamaster type watches, and they made it branded for the game, and you could buy it with like the controllers and stuff. So I was like,
Yeah,
I
what
think
a
they were
market
really
hubris.
trying. I know,
That's
right?
insane.
I have
We
a
are the
stupid
Porsche video
Starfield
games.
controller, and I have yet to play it fully through. It's like this looks freaking cool.
Yeah. And
And
to
it-
that point, I know that like for Ethan and Jason, this is probably I think Graham, me and your favorite setting is definitely like being
Oh
in
yeah,
Starfield
this
and
is
like
like
that.
this is like
Yeah.
my bread and butter.
And the idea of it being like, oh, it's kind of like half frontier, half like megalopolis cities on particular planets and stuff is pretty cool. but
Yeah, I was like,
it
that
just
looks
felt so
awesome.
lifeless. And they were like, "Oh, it's so great because we built
That's it.
we built the system from a ground up again, and oh, it's gonna be like Skyrim but without the quirks." And I'm like, I kind of miss the quirks now. I like
That's-
would have kept this.
that's
game alive.
exactly
Now
right,
it
yeah.
felt so dead.
Dude, I think
think part
that's
of
Are
my-
you sure you just didn't want more Destiny?
well, yes.
No.
All I want is more Destiny, but that's not allowed anymore.
More
Uh,
Destiny pushed me off a cliff.
I feel like a limitation to some of these games like this and Outer Worlds is when they decide that you go to like multiple different planets, you will normally see like one or two different kinds of aliens,
I know.
but those are like all restricted to specific planets. I don't know. I feel like when there will be like, I don't know, let's say a different Bethesda game like Fallout, where it's like you will see like a whole slew of weird mutants and creatures and bandits and stuff all across the place. But again, in like Outer Worlds, it's like you will just see like one type of alien and like a guy on a specific planet, and it just kind of makes a lot of them feel really samey to me. Generally,
Yeah.
I prefer, again, something like Fallout or Skyrim, where it's like we're all in the same world, we just go to like different regions. I guess it helps make it feel more like full to me.
Yeah. I would say Outer Wilds is a really good example because it's a game that came out, I mean, what was that, like 6 years, 2018, 2019? Came out way earlier.
I
with
know.
worse hardware and everything, it number one
Looks
it felt
almost
like
the
it looked
same.
better. Yeah,
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 yeah.
And then, I mean, obviously it's like Obsidian and their storytelling and their creation of like systems of kind of like governance and communication and stuff happening between the player. It feels different, obviously, compared to Bethesda games. It's a big difference between them, but Outer Wilds felt way more full somehow, and I don't know really how to describe it. I think it just has, like, when you go into the first town in Outer Wilds, it feels like there's a ton of stuff going on. And I got to talk to a bunch of people. You talk to some crazy doctor who's like all methed out on something, whatever he's got going on, right? And you're like, oh, this is interesting. And then there's like, oh, this is the town where we kill everybody when they get too old, or we do a lot, like all that stuff's happening like right off the bat. And in Starfield, you're like, oh, we have to make a blank slate reason, so let's get to that. And then now you're in a mine, and then now you're fighting people, and now you're the chosen one, and it kind of like skips through that, and it doesn't feel right from a I don't know, from like standpoint of story and creating the story mode there. So
it never succeeds feeling anything other than a vendor. Like, it feels like vanilla World of Warcraft, where I'm running from vendor to vendor getting basic updates on missions.
yeah,
And it's like nothing moves, nothing's like interactive, and nothing happens. It's like, yeah, I don't know. They did a better job with freaking all their other games. But I just like to point out the
these reviews
Washington
are
Post. I
insane.
know. Like, the Washington Post, the
What is
4 out of
happening
4.
here?
You're out of your
how do you get
mind.
4 out of 4?
I don't know. It's
Is that 4 out of 4 posts? Like,
I don't know.
they're holding it down.
Don't worry.
I can respect the 4 out of 4, but the 99 out of 100 and the 98s out of 100 are absolutely insane.
And these
to
are
me.
like, what are these? These are like Belt Tech Reviews, Screen Rant, IGN España. You're like, what, Cine Links? Who the hell are these people?
Yeah.
They just
most of these I've not heard of.
no. Forbes, don't worry. Forbes gave it a 9.5 out of 10, though. Don't worry.
You're right, because when I want video game review, I go to 4.
Exactly.
Well, no, they were like, this is a great way to steal money from people. 9 out of 10.
Yeah. Todd Howard, we believe in you. So
Jeez.
that's my rant for Starfield. I think it had all of the availability to do well and show that their entire studio is actually growing, and they showed that they have learned nothing from their other games and didn't do anything differently.
Crazy.
Yeah. So that's mine. Who would like to go next?
Let's just go down the Discord list. I guess I'll go next.
Sure. That works for me. What you got for me?
All right. So, isn't really 2024, and I kind of have two answers to this question on the game that I am hating the most. One of them that I've played just a skosh of is the new Civilization game, Civ 7. There are just a lot of parts of this game that branch from the older Civilization games. One of them is previously, and we were talking about tech trees a little bit earlier, just in general, but
Yeah.
one of the things about the Civ game is you would open up your tech tree and you would have branching paths all the way through to the end of the game to future tech. And the way that this game works is that you will all get your own smaller tech trees that go up to a specific point. We'll say it's the end of the first age. And then once enough actions have happened in the world and the first age ends, everybody gets all of the tech in that first tree. And everybody gets
Really?
bumped up to the same benchmark of science. And so, like, no matter how much tech or what trees you've decided to go up in the first era, everybody will automatically get everything when the Age of Antiquity ends and the Age of Exploration begins.
Oh,
and,
no
like,
shit.
soldiers that you have moved around the map will get brought back to your bases. And you will just, get some kind of bonuses and get to spend more upgrades. But, like, instead of having more grand strategy, where you are upgrading guys and moving them, positioning them around your borders to, conquer lands or whatever,
Yeah.
like, these things get undone. And if you're a civ that, like, is teching hard into science, maybe you don't have as good military, but the idea is that later on you are so far above other people that is like a path to victory. But
Yeah.
now, everyone's science gets bumped up to these benchmarks once these ages end. And so,
so it's like you almost have a chance
like
to
such
win.
a regression
Yeah, I hate
of right. It's like this is how this is one of the paths to victory. It's like if I tech hard into science, I should have an advantage, and everybody gets brought back to these checkpoints. And
Is
so,
it just with science, or is there all other stuff that it actually?
but it's like science is like science is like stuff that will unlock like sailing or different kinds of units or whatever. And so it's like, sure, you can tech ahead of people for a little while, but like even if someone has no science, once you hit that next age, they just like gain a bunch of free ones. So it feels
That's
more
weird.
like 3 mini ages, and you kind of like get some stuff reset, and then you have to do more advancements, as opposed to like one long full game.
So you almost
It's
want to
just
try
like
and
such a weird. Again, it's just like a weird detachment from the other Civ games.
I just gotta say, this is why kids, we gotta stop giving participation trophies. We gotta start hitting them.
That's right.
Like when I beat your ass in Civ 7, you gotta know why.
That's
Because
right.
I got bazookas and you got arrows, and you didn't do shit.
And see, that's why. Yeah, I teched real hard into like having tanks right away.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. Like, yeah, and
Like,
something
I'm
that
gonna
is
sit
kind
here
of
and go right hard into pottery.
something that is funny, that is kind of like what I would say a flavor fail, but is just kind of like entertaining.
Yeah.
Is that the leaders of your civilization that you get to pick are no longer tied to which civilization you play.
Oh, that's right.
So you can play
Yeah.
Ben Franklin, leader of the Romans, and
I
get
did
whatever,
see that. Yeah.
and get the Ben Franklin,
Where you're like
bonus
you play
as well as the
Cleopatra
Rome
as
bonus.
as like the regular like.
Cleopatra is leader of the Americans. It's
Yes,
just like,
exactly.
it's just funny shit. But I
I
will
feel
say a
like-
flavor fail, but it gives you more specialization, so you can change the way that those bonuses affect you. That's more funny than anything else, but
Yeah, it doesn't
yeah,
bother
so
me
you
that much. But this is your big fail for 2024.
yeah.
You said you had 2. Was there another one you were going to talk about, or?
Yeah, there's another one very briefly. I picked up this game. It's a little bit older. It was called Wildermyth. It's like a little RPG that you play that it's kind of like a square based movement, like a Fire Emblem.
Okay.
The RPG elements are neat. There are some things about it where it's like you will have characters and events will happen in the world over the course of like decades. And so like when you make a character, it might be 20 years between events that happen. And so like you will see your character get old and die. And
Ooh.
you have to like constantly make new ones. But I felt like the writing was really bad. And the combat is a little
Dude, that
the
guy's
combat
fighting
is a
fire.
little basic. So yeah, the combat's a little basic. I felt like I played it for a little while and my characters were just like way too good. If you just had like a little bit of common sense on tactics, it felt like everything was just a walk in the park. So
Yeah.
it was a disappointing game that I had played.
Baby's first knockoff Paper Mario.
Yeah,
or
kind of.
something.
Yeah, it does.
So that's my other one.
Good lord, oh man.
All right.
Yeah, I
Jake-
don't
can't
like
do
the
that
looks
art
of that.
style.
No.
Okay, I can't do that art style. No,
Yeah.
dude. Oh my gosh.
And like Slay the Spire did it right, and you're like, nah, this is
Yeah.
not.
exactly.
No, we're gonna
So-
go
That
with
ain't it,
paper.
fam. That ain't it.
So this was not my favorite.
It doesn't.
Hey,
It doesn't. It. I.
I agree. It wasn't
I hate it. I'm out.
I hate it for you.
To jump back to that real quick on for Civ 7.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, not to go back and forth, but are you more into those style of games, or like Rise of Nations and Age of Empires, kind of like that, versus like the 4X games, or where do you kind of sit in that?
It's funny. It's something that when I was a little bit younger, again when we were playing more like StarCraft, more like that RTS style,
Yeah.
Age of Empires.
Bring it
That is
back.
something I was into then. But now that I play way more board games, I am far more into like the 4X stuff. Personally,
And when you say 4X, you mean
it's a style of game. It's Oh, if I can
It's like
remember, it's
expansion,
exploration, expansion. I
eczema,
can't even remember.
and exhume, I think.
Xylophones.
So it's
Yeah.
like a yeah. I mean, it's the kind of games like Civ where it's like you're building up, you are expanding your territory, you're attacking other people.
And then normally there's like different structures too. Like you have like commerce or economy or things you're kind of like building upon that build. So you have different engines that can drive. Like you can have a military that can go steal a bunch of shit, or you have like an economy that's like growing and building off of agriculture and building off scientific advancements to get more gold. And there's like a bunch of different ways to win. Basically, is the idea. You know.
Yeah, and just to let you know, me and Devin both have this game and are playing through it on the Steam decks against each other. All right, Jason, you're up.
All right. I don't know if this game is on Steam. Look it up. It's called the Callisto Protocol. I think it was. Oh, yeah, I think I saw it there.
Oh,
I remember it dropping. I think like maybe as a first-party Xbox game when it originally came out, or maybe it was fully released on everything. I don't know.
I'm already sold.
In the heat and the wake of like the late 2010s, early 2020s, where we were getting like RE2, 3, and 4 remake and Dead Space remake and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I was hot on those games. I love Dead Space franchise and the Resident Evil franchise and everything.
Yeah.
And I remember this game getting announced in like the 2020s, and I was like, I'll go give that a crack because I think it was on Game Pass or something at the time. And also, you'll notice in the trailer here that it also fell in the subcategory of like we're doing full mocap with famous actors. So Slaughter, like you were saying before, Josh Duhamel is the main character. Karen Fukuhara is in it. Sam Witwer, I think, is like one of the captains or something. And that's cool and all, but like the game's not good.
Really?
The game's not good in any way.
Damn.
It's like I don't even know how to describe it. It's trying to be the marriage between like interactive storytelling
and
like Hollywood storytelling.
Yeah.
And good interactive.
I mean, it looks awesome.
Well, the problem with it is it looks too good, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a problem. Is it looks too good, and then you pick it up, and even on the Series X on like performance mode versus whatever high fidelity mode or whatever.
Yeah.
The performance mode, it just runs absolutely terribly. Like every single action that this character does is noticeably milliseconds after my controller movement kind of thing. And that's like I'm not a big person to like about those kind of performance issues. I mainly play on console. Like 60 hertz versus 120 hertz, like all that crap is not me. But like I pick up this game and it doesn't feel like a game.
It just feels bad.
Feels like it's almost like a walking sim, right? But it's got all these action things in it, and it's like this game doesn't play like a game. It plays like an interactive story, but it's got way too much action going on for me to really, I don't know, enjoy it.
Don't watch
it's like,
that. I'm not adding it to my wish list.
After I think I came right off of Dead Space remake into this, and I was
Which
like,
is so
and I know
good.
that. I think it's the guy, Glenn Schofield, I think is his name. He was like one of the creative directors or writers or something, or just designers from, what is it, Visceral Games. And I think Visceral Games did the original Dead Space.
Okay.
So like following the creative, you can see where that comes from. But the game is bad. The game does not feel like a game. It feels like they put too many stats in interactive story and spending money on real live actors and all that stuff, and not enough stats in gameplay, and it was really upsetting. So Dead Space, if you guys have ever played it, or like any of the Resident Evil games, just like very basic, over the shoulder, third person action adventure, resource management, mix of horror, mix of shooting and stuff like that. I was expecting that in this game, and you finally get to the first main like combat, and the tutorial for hand-to-hand combat is like 5 minutes.
Oh god.
And it has so many pop-ups on screen because it's all about like the if you guys ever played like For Honor, I think,
Yeah.
has it's all about like the hold LB the block, but then also use the left analog stick to block top left, top right, or bottom left. And then
God.
when you get a successful parry, then you can hit RB to switch to like attack mode, and then you like it was too much. I just needed to hold LT to aim and hit right RT to shoot. Like that's all I needed. And it was way more involved. And then the more I played it, the less of a game it felt like. And the chapters are super short. They put a lot of emphasis on the cutscenes and the graphic fidelity and everything like that. I switch back and forth from like graphic to high fidelity mode, and the game is literally unplayable in graphic intensive mode. You have to play on like performance forward mode.
Wow.
To even get anything out of it. And I know games have come out like that. But this game coming out in late 2022, for me, they only pick it up, year and a half later, when it's still being
that bad.
that tough to play. And it's like, I don't know, maybe because it's a single player like story driven game. I think maybe that's just, you don't hear the outcry that you do of like a multiplayer game, maybe, and therefore the devs don't feel nearly as responsible to go back and patch it or something.
Man. It was day one. People were like, "This doesn't play on console at all. Please fix."
It was a big letdown coming off the heels of the Resident Evil remakes and the Dead Space remake, and knowing that Glenn Schofield was attached to it, who was one of the original creatives behind Dead Space. I was really looking forward to it, and it unfortunately just fell flat.
Damn.
I actually thought that this game was pretty cool. I think that it was just the story. The story is just kind of pretty lackluster, but the combat system seemed pretty interesting to me, as far as like the structure of the blocking and everything like that. It's pretty clunky, but it seemed like one of those games where, all right, it's super clunky and it's not super, like beginner friendly, but once you get the hang of it, it kind of keeps combat a little bit more lively. So I feel like they could do this game and then just make it more indie and have a better directed story, and I think it would work out well. But to your point, it was kind of like a bad mix match of like a spiritual idea of Dead Space matched with with Hollywood. It's like it's really hard to kind of match those things up and do a true AAA horror game.
This seems like it was developed.
Different is totally right.
Oh, sorry, Jace.
No, I was just gonna say different is right, and it can be different, but I think they did maybe market it a little too hard on the spiritual successor to Dead Space kind of thing. And then when it wasn't just Dead Space reskinned, it was a letdown.
Yeah, and I feel like this game was decided in a boardroom, not from someone's like head. This was definitely like, hey, let's make a game, not, hey, I'm interested in making a game, with like a good idea, not the other way around.
Yeah.
Of money first.
Like, I know a guy named Josh, and he looks really good in a helmet. So
yeah, exactly. Let's shave his head, throw him in there. We'll see if the mocap machine does okay. All right, Slaughter. What's been in your craw?
All right. I most hated is hard to. I think what Ethan was saying earlier. It's a really difficult category for me. I'm a pretty positive guy. I like a lot of M. Night Shyamalan movies. You know what I mean? So. But yeah, I really hated. There's one game I really hated, which was Dragon Dogma 2. The first game, which I only played a little bit of it, and I kind of just enjoyed mostly from looking at different ways to play it and watching people play it in the past. It's really hard to describe because it is kind of in a category of its own. So like if I were to say, oh, it's like this type of game, it's hard to kind of jam a lot of the different things that they normally get pretty close to correct into that game and say, oh, it's like this. So. The game itself is like it's open world RPG. It's supposed to have a very it's like a low fantasy. Like there's not a ton of magic, or magic's pretty clunky and not super available in the world. And the game's supposed to be kind of fairly difficult too. But if you roll all those things together, like in-depth character creation, a fairly simple fantasy world. Built around you, open world. Yeah, Khajiits. There are no cat people that I saw at least. So, my man. I'll come back to that joke. So, anyways, the game would just fit squarely into something that I would really like. But it felt like the entire game was like 80% to hitting everything that I was looking for. So like the open world wasn't really open world. It was really difficult to get around. And the problem that I had with it is it wasn't really open world. It felt more like open world on rails, like where you had a pathway you could follow generally to another area. A lot of times you had to get a certain quest and be with certain people in order to open up other areas that you're working through. And that's like pseudo open world to me. I'd rather have one or the other, like a really good strict on rails experience or an open world, not like a half and half. It's kind of similar to I can think of it. I felt like Horizon Zero Dawn was kind of like that as well, where there's some limited like open world things you kind of act on, but it felt a little bit more, jammed into a particular area. The way I kind of described it is it felt like you're in a hallway as opposed to actually in like an open world. It's like, oh, I can run back and forth down this hallway, but I'm not really getting anywhere. I'm going from point A to point B. I'm going from my bathroom to to my bedroom or whatever. So
it's a hallway game.
Yeah.
It's a hallway game.
Hallway game. Yeah. PT.
I mean, it looks like it's got a lot going on
true.
for it, but I mean, it definitely sounds like. I mean, I've looked at it before.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It looks amazing.
It looks
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
And I think we were talking about this before, Jason, where like it's one of those games where like, man, it looks great. Like this looks amazing. It looks like Elden Ring and Skyrim just like had a baby, and it became like the freaking, I don't know, like the Brad Pitt of fantasy games. But no,
Dude, they got Khajiits in the marketing material, and you're telling me you didn't see one?
Oh, there were Khajiits. Nah.
Oh my God, they got two of them.
Yeah, I forgot there was like lion people. So the big problems that I had with it, other than that, were there was like a lot of mechanics that weren't really explained well. So one of the things was time progression. So there are certain things you kind of get soft locked or hard locked out of based on the time passing in the game, but it's not really that strict. So like one of the first things you do is you get to a city, and I don't even know why the hell I was in this city, but we were in the city, right? And there's 4 people who are like, we have this critical thing we need to do right now. You need to go do this quest, but also go to sleep. And then tomorrow you can go, but you better do it fast, otherwise things are gonna fall apart. So like there's like a lot of like storytelling that was driving you to do something quickly and get to resolution on things.
Yeah.
It makes you think, oh, I'm gonna lose out on things. It creates like an anxiety for you to track down and complete certain quests.
Like fake
and
tension.
I'm like 100% completionist person. I'm like, I don't want to miss anything if I can't. And then it turns out, if you do a little bit of research, there's really not like a hard lockout on certain things.
But so it's like it's created tension essentially.
Exactly. Yeah. It's complete faux tension. Like you can leave for 4 days, go off and do a quest, and then come back and you still do the other quests. There's no impact on anything other than that. I think there were probably some further down the line maybe that get hard locked out of, but I mean I hard uninstalled this game after a certain point, and that point was because of the Dragon's Plague. So the Dragon's Plague is supposed to be an idea that like the pawns you have, they get this thing called Dragon's Plague, and it's supposed to be I think it's like an affection of the soul or something like that, because pawns aren't real people. They're like people that you create or pull from different worlds, and they act on your behalf basically as the Arisen.
Yeah.
And the thing is you can get Dragon's Plague, and Dragon's Plague will spread to like NPCs and other people, and it'll kill them. Like they will literally explode from having this Dragon's Plague. None of this was really like well described, so I got Dragon's Plague because I was out,
dipping your thing in things that
around.
you shouldn't be.
Yeah, exactly. I was out playing the game, having fun like an asshole. And then so I come back and I'm like, oh, it's kind of weird. Like one of my guys has like dark eyes. Apparently you shouldn't go to sleep when your character has dark eyes. Woke up, the entire city's dead. Like, and we're talking, and the cities
No.
to that point, cities are really cool. There's a lot of things going on. There's a ton of people. There's a lot of people to talk to. It feels lively. It feels full. Because it's like even if you can only like half interact with people, it still feels like you can interact with everybody, and it still feels like there's a ton of things going on. Like people are having conversations, they're having arguments that you can't even like. It's not even part of a quest. It's not even part of things that you have to do. It's stuff just happening, and you killed the entire city. And at that point, I was like, okay, I've been playing this game for about like 30 hours at that point. I had gone to a place where I found the first like fast travel. And then I got a gem that you can use to fast travel back to the city because I was going to fast travel back to that area and then continue on some of the quests that I was doing. Apparently, those gems are really hard to come by, and it didn't explain to me that I only had one. So I couldn't fast travel back, which meant I had to run back because there was no carts available. Because apparently the carts have like a whole system where they go back and forth. Like it was so ridiculous. And I was like, I can't believe this. I'm just going to go to sleep. I go to sleep. I killed the entire town.
And we're done. We are done.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think in about 10 seconds afterwards, it was uninstalled from my PlayStation. And unfortunately, I could not get a refund. But I did. Yeah, but and that's the hard thing. Like to that point, Jason, like a lot of one of the coolest things is the vocations. There's classes, and the classes you can change back and forth. Like you don't have to stick with the specific class. You can put these points into other classes and try them out. So like to one thing I do all the time is I create a ton of classes because I want to try them all out. I want to get like the fullest experience of all the classes. It's really cool. There's hybrid classes that feel distinctly different from all the other classes too. So like you start off with the 4 classes and it's like fighter, mage, ranger, and thief, right? And then there's hybrid classes you can build into it. There's also 2 advanced classes. There's warrior and sorcerer. Sorcerer is more like mage, but I don't want to just sit there and heal like an idiot.
Yeah.
I want to actually cast some cool spells. And like all that's so cool. That system's so cool, but I didn't feel like I wanted to explore it because everything surrounding it was so annoying, right? Like none of it was really building around.
This game looks ridiculous.
It's super cool, yeah. But it sucks.
But you hate it.
I hate it. I hate it so much. The best way I could describe it, because going back to what I was saying in the very beginning, was it's really hard to put it down to say like, oh, this game's like this game. I feel like one of the best explanations I got to give with this is, I feel like The Witcher, like The Witcher 2 and The Witcher 3, and then Kingdom Come Deliverance, kind of fill that same thing that I'm looking for in a game when it comes to this game. But the difference really is that they leaned hard into particular aspects of those games and kind of gave up on other parts of it. Whereas I feel Dragon's Dogma was trying to fill out like basically everything. Like you have great character creation, you have great storytelling, you have great combat mechanics, you have great party creation mechanics, you have great exploration. And like with The Witcher, they ditch a lot of that stuff. Like you don't get to create your character, you are Geralt, but you can kind of like change some things. You can get some, some cool cosmetics. You can change his hair, whatever.
Yeah.
But like, hey, this is the thing. You're Geralt, and because you're Geralt, you have this fixed kind of combat system that you're gonna be working within. It's got a little bit of magic, got a little bit of swords, and then the quests that are happening around you are strictly because of the fact that you're the Witcher, right? So like a lot of those things, a lot of the side quests and stuff are happening because of it. And I don't like the way that in particular that they try to be like, oh, you're a blank slate character, you're going to be built up and you're becoming this person called the Arisen, and you're not actually being the quests that are happening around you are just happening. They're happening no matter what, and you're kind of inserting yourself into it and becoming the basically the player of the world. It doesn't feel like the world itself around you is actually existing. You're literally everything that is driving everything existing in the world forward. And I don't like that about a world. I like to go into a world and feel like I'm existing within it, where I might be the main character, but there's a lot of things that are happening completely independent of what's happening to me, and I get to experience that story together, as the player with what's going on in there. So I feel like that's the best example of it. Is like in a game like The Witcher, they nail it because they really cue in on particular things that they know are important for the story. They just tried to, I feel like they just tried to juggle too much. And instead of hitting a couple of things 100%, they really hit everything like 70 to 80%. And it made for just an awful experience for me. So,
damn. Well, it sounds like you had a great time until it ended.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you probably would have liked this if it came around and it came around a different way. But yeah, it sounds like a miss on their part. But
yeah, if you found out in like the next Witcher game, in like Witcher 4 or something like that you play as Geralt and and he goes through and does his missions and everything like that, and you learn that there was like a side mission buried like 50 hours deep into the game where some character, we'll call them the Arisen, woke up with dragon sickness and killed the entire town. and you had to play that side quest in Witcher 4 or whatever. Would you feel justified in the amount of time and money you spent on Dragon's Dogma?
I got a migraine now.
Okay.
All right, we're moving on. So,
Yep.
those are the games we didn't like in 2024, and it sounds like Slaughter needs a break. So, what we're going to do is I'm going to move on to the games that I bought and didn't get to play in 2024, but that I wanted to play. And the game that I'm going to start off with is the Castlevania Dominus Collection. So this game, basically what they did here was they went back and took like these were the games that I really liked when I played Castlevania back on the Nintendo DS. So this was what was it?
So is this a collection of games? Are they like remastered, or are they all new games? Like what is
So
it?
what they did was they basically, because they were made for the Nintendo DS, so like everything was split between two monitors and like had like a touch screen and all this other stuff. So like running these in an emulator, like unless you have an Android handheld or something that you can use like a touch screen, running this on your computer, you're like, what, I gotta use the mouse or something to like make signets to play it. But I played through what's it called? What is the name of this one? I'm looking for about this game, but it's okay. Here they are. Yeah, so it's Castlevania: Dawn of Sorrows, Portrait of Ruin, and Order of Escala. Ecclesia? There you go.
Ecclesia, yeah.
Ecclesia.
So they're all originally DS Castlevania games.
Yeah, or something around that era. And
Okay.
I mean,
Did you just play them on your computer?
well, that was the other thing is I was like, oh, I don't really want to play these on my computer because like blowing something that was supposed to be like 3 inches diagonally across to like 30 is going to look like crap. So I played it. I put like 2 hours into this and I didn't get to finish it yet. But yeah, I mean, I really like these games, and they blew it up and they give you like, this kind of does a bad, like it doesn't give you a good idea of how it'll actually look. But what it does is it puts like a border on your screen and like fills it out so it's like a 16:9 game. And yeah. Oh, here you go. So it basically, they give you like a border at the top and a bottom, and they put the game on the left and like the map and all the other crap that you normally would see on the bottom screen on the right. And these were my favorite Castlevania games because this was like the end of the like Metroidvania style until they went 3D for a while, and it was not good in like the 360 era. So yeah, I want to finish this one up, but I feel like I'll have to go on vacation to have time to finish this because they are long games. Ethan, what were you gnawing on but didn't get a chance to finish?
Yeah, the game that I was playing a little bit of but didn't get to finish was Satisfactory.
I've heard a lot about this game.
This game,
Tell me about
it's
it.
great. So it is kind of like a 3D version of, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Factorio, where it's kind of like you're.
I always get those two games confused.
So this
they
one
are
is
similar.
This one is a first-person version, similar, where you are landing on an alien planet. They're like little alien creatures and stuff, but you are running around finding like mineral deposits, and you are building infrastructure. This is a game for engineers and people that love math. This is about finding mines and, whatever. Your drilling rig will be able to mine, 60 resources out of the ground, and then your conveyor belts,
I
will
would
only
probably
move
like this.
whatever. It'll, your your level 1 conveyor belts will move 60, but, your smelter can only take 20 resources per minute, and so you need to, like, split junctions to try and maximize efficiency and build buildings and,
the coffee mug.
You build, like, a space elevator to shoot resources into outer space for progression, and it's very cool. I say I haven't really sunk my teeth into this game. I do have slightly over 20 hours.
Oh my god, okay.
And I am nowhere close to being
That is,
done.
yeah, that's not even close.
And so this is
Good
a
lord.
really fun game. Makes for really good co-op also.
Oh, I bet.
Like you can do online co-op and everyone can run around and pick up stuff.
Yeah, you're like I'm here trying to I'm
it's-
getting all the rocks. You build the pipes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun. It's also like there are times where it's like you'll build up and slow little, inefficiencies or design. There comes a point where it's like those little problems will just like add up. And there have been like, again, I've only played for like 20 hours. There's a few times where I've gone in and just deleted every single building because I'm like, I have to redo it. It like the lines aren't straight.
God.
The
The
lines
zigs
aren't
are zagging.
straight.
We've got to redo it from the ground up. So it is something that I've, and it's been a while. And 1.0 just came out in September, so recently.
And Coffee
so I would say
Stain,
that
they were the guys who did Valheim.
yes,
Okay.
Yep.
And Deep Rock
it's a
LA.
good dev.
Wow.
No, they have been throwing out good games left and right. So I would definitely suggest Satisfactory, and it's a great, very chill co-op game where people can just like hang out, run around, and build a factory. It's fun.
You know what's the reason why I didn't play this game?
Oh, this is
Because I
It
played
would become your new
Starfield.
job.
No, it's because I played Starfield, and basically this is kind of what I expected out of Starfield's like whole resource system and everything with the planets. And it was so bad that I looked at it and I was like, I can't be burned again.
I can't be burned
Oh,
again.
this one is so good. And for a game that isn't about movement, this game has some of the cleanest movement mechanics that I've played. It's not a game about like shooting or running around or fighting, but just like the way that your character runs and you can slide, and if you're sliding down a hill, you just like keep picking up momentum. It feels
Oh, that's
really
great.
good for a game that's about building a factory. It's like way too good, actually.
That's probably just a good point of how great the developer is, because yeah, I actually watched this when it came out. The Let's Game It Out guy, Josh, he does YouTube content, and he did this whole video. It's hilarious. Even if you don't play this game, go watch that video, and that'll give you like the taste for this type of game. But yeah,
Ethan, did you ever play Dyson Sphere?
No, I didn't.
is that a vacuuming
I
game?
feel like, yeah, you make a giant vacuum. No joke.
Incredible.
No, I feel like it was like an intermediary. It's like a third person over the shoulder, like you control robot and you make Factorio, and then I feel like this is like the logical
Incredible.
extension to be like first person,
Yeah.
Skyrim Factorio. So
Yeah.
That's so funny.
So this is for the people that play Minecraft and immediately make like
Buildings.
calculators out of redstone and
Yes.
stuff.
Maybe. Potentially. I almost feel like it's maybe it is the same people.
I mean, I don't know. Whatever this is, it looks extremely satisfying.
It does.
Hence the Satisfactory name. But only after you put hundreds of hours into optimizing every inch and every corner and every rail.
It
and,
is
something
it is
like that.
definitely a game where like you will be I've been sitting there in my factory going, I don't understand why. I'm sitting there being like, I don't
I just
understand.
want to play this with you.
Yeah, you're like, I just don't understand. Like, all these conveyor belts can move 120 widgets. Why can the things processing 40 widgets a second not handle it? Like, we're not getting enough. And then I realize I haven't upgraded one conveyor belt at the beginning of my production line.
So
And
it's all
been-
backing up.
It's been screwing everything the whole time.
Oh, that's
and you fix it, and it's like,
fantastic.
now it works. The math is working now.
Yeah, I want to play this. I will I
fun.
will absolutely play this with you. This seems
Yeah.
hilarious. Because
I
that's
feel
what
like
I'm
I
gonna
would
do.
have-
That right there.
Yep.
All right, I would have a much like I don't know. When it comes to stuff like this is not where I like putting my creativity, but I can appreciate it. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I feel like I would have the most fun in the other game they make where it's like Satisfactory internal audit. And I just walk around to other people's factories and I'm like, bro, over here, Like, this thing's only level 3 and all your other stuff is level 4. You're probably not understanding, like, right now. But in, like, 90 in-game hours, you're going to have a backup unless you don't, like, upgrade this one thing here. Like, I would have much more time going around criticizing everyone's thing.
Yeah.
That's funny.
To be fair, I don't know anything about it to begin
it.
with. But if a number not as big as other number and should be this number, I can definitely tell people that.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So we got a back-end engineer with Ethan, and we got a QA engineer with Jason. So, Graham, you be sales, and I'll be
I'll be sales.
I don't know, the manager, I guess. Yeah, I'll be the guy who does nothing.
All right, so Jason, what was your game you bought and didn't play?
Let's see. Game I bought and didn't play last year was Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled.
Oh, I don't.
Have you heard of this game?
No.
Have you ever been 9 years old and owned the PlayStation 1 before?
Oh, I've played Crash Team Racing. Is it just a remake?
So it's published by Activision, and the developer is Beanox, and I don't know where they started. But they are behind all of the like classic PlayStation remakes that have been coming out. They did like the Crash 1, 2, 3 remake and the Spyro 1, 2, and 3 remake. And so like there's just a bunch of things that they are it's like that nostalgia thing, right? You're getting all these games from previous times, and now all these kids that used to spend hours and hours and hours on these games when you were
On the PS1,
single
yeah.
digits. Yeah, now you have money to rebuy it, and you know, we'll call it what it is essentially playing on your nostalgia. But you know, I love the Spyro games, I love the Crash games, so I previously purchased like the remakes of the trilogies and played through all of them, and then they made Crash Bandicoot 4 and picked that up and play that. Still haven't beat that, but this one is like one of those weird offshoots where, you know, it's like you're playing Super Mario 64, but when your friends come over, you play Mario Party.
Yeah.
You know, you have Crash Bandicoot at home. When everyone comes over, maybe you play CTR or something. I don't know what happened, because first and foremost, I feel like I'm better at video games than I was when I was a child, but I don't have the time that I used to be able to sink into it. Then again, I feel like this game has always been, and kind of Crash games in general, have kind of been like mind-numbingly like abusive as like party games or racing games. Like, they're not Mario Kart. I feel like I can play Mario Kart and have a good time and be over with. I played this game, and I'm playing like the level 1 or the world 1 boss, Ripperoo, and you're just fighting him in like a 1v1 race, and you just have to beat him in 3 laps, and the game is like developed to make you lose, and it's like nothing that I do I can beat this world 1 boss. And I don't know, it's after I want to say 2 to 4 hours of this game, I put it down because it was not doing what I needed it to do, which was fill like that middle game category, where I feel like I always have like one big game that I'm focusing on where I dump a lot of time in, and I need like a weekend game to play it. The mobile game that's like the pick up and go, that's like your balatros and stuff like that. Like at any time I can pick it up and play it for 5 minutes or an hour. And this is like that middle game where it's like either mission based, or in this case it's like race based or anything like that, where it's like I have a very clear in and out point. And if I'm losing a 3-lap race and I'm in 6th place on the beginning of lap 2, I can very easily turn it off or whatever. But if I need to finish it, I think I'll turn it around. It's like another 3 minutes and I'll be done the game. You know, it's like a nice intermediate kind of gaming.
Yeah.
Length. And it is infuriating how hard this game is. It's so hard, and I was going back and playing like Crash Bandicoot 4 and all the remakes, and it is infuriating how difficult some of these games are, man. And the problem is I just don't know if I'm actually not as good as I was when I was a child, or if it's that I don't have the amount of time to just like bash my head against the wall until the 1% chance that I beat it on a fluke.
Yeah.
You know? But I feel like this is a game that you should be able to sit down and be like, okay, World 1, Level 1, Race 1. I'm playing as Crash Bandicoot, the titular character. I should be able to sit in here and hold down the right trigger and not hit wall and win.
Yeah, and just
and
smoke
it's like,
them.
And it's like not even close. It's like if you are not bunny hopping around corners, doing the little wiggle boost and maximizing all your items and 100% aim, you're not getting first place, you're not winning this, and you don't move on.
Oh, damn.
I'm like, oh my god, I can't do that. I
Yeah,
can't
that's
do
too
this.
much.
I can't do it anymore.
I mean, this guy doesn't seem to have
Yeah,
any problems.
Real upsetting. I don't know. I know in like the Mario games they have like the CCs, which is like difficulties.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
I don't know if there's something like this on here, but if it were the case, I definitely didn't do the hardest one because I'm not a masochist when it comes to games. Because I looked at this game and I picked it up, say, this is a game I remember from childhood. I'm gonna play it to fill that little nostalgia hole, and because it's like a fun little game, I can pick it up and play it whenever I want. And a Saturday morning, I'm a couple hours in working on like World 2, Race 3 or something, and it's like a specific map that might have a lot of jumps in it that I'm just not good at navigating with this character, and it's just like I don't know, man.
It ain't for me, Falco.
It ain't me, unfortunately. Sometimes you play. Listen, I don't play a lot of racing games. Sometimes you just pick up a game because you think it's going to be fun or easy or relaxing or like a walk down memory lane. And I guess what I learned from this game is I just stay away from racing games altogether.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
It's a tough lesson to learn.
hey, it is what it is.
I guess.
I think that's a lot of things from, especially the nostalgia like jump of games recently, is you realize like if you look at your attention span or your ability to pay attention to stuff, it's almost like a strict economy, and you're like, I can't spend enough time to make some games interesting. And I
Right.
feel like all racing games filled into that pretty quickly. Like there's a lot of really cool Forza games that look at like they came out, and Gran Turismo and stuff, and just like, dude, I can't
No, no.
enough to learn
Yeah,
these
you're
tracks as if I'm an actual F1 driver.
No.
Yeah, and when when we were children and I had Crash 2 and CTR and like Spyro 3 and then like whatever Ghost Recon Advanced Warfare 1 or something like that, and I'm like, well, I've beat these other two single player games ad nauseum, and I could play them with my eyes closed. And I pick up Ghost Recon, and it's like Chinese to me because I'm 8 years old and my brain's not fully developed. So then I put in CTR, and I'm just like, well, these are characters. I know what it is. It's racing. I could probably do it. But in reality, it was probably a nightmare for me back then too. Didn't play a lot. Wanted to play it. Wanted to like it. Very quickly turned down into
And we don't play this
know if I have
again.
time for this kind of game. It hasn't been uninstalled. Is all I have to say.
Okay.
Hasn't been uninstalled.
All right.
There's a chance.
There's a chance.
Yeah, there's a chance.
All right, Slaughter. What did you buy and it didn't play in 2024?
All right. I got one game that I bought. I bought it during the peak too, like the peak time. It was just after my house flooded, moved into the Airbnb and everything, and then they're like, "Hey, this game is $20 and you can play it, and we're all killing the bugs, baby." Which was Helldivers 2, which I wish that I could play. I don't know. I feel like I played about 20 to 30 hours of it, and I haven't uninstalled it from my PlayStation. I guess it's just like wishful thinking or something, but it was really cool. It was a really cool game. It seemed really cool. I really wanted to. I wanted to enjoy like the community that was going on with it.
Yeah.
It seemed like the community was really cool, where they were like, "Hey, we're getting together," and the idea of the game being that you have a broader map, that you constantly have the bots and the aliens or the bugs or whatever are kind of like converging on you, and you're the last bastion of Earth, and you're fighting back against them as part of the Helldivers and going out there. It just seemed really cool. And I really like a lot of those games where it's like the 2, 3, 4 person drop in, like kind of like Destiny, like
Yeah, same.
Which I guess Destiny in the same regard. I really liked the idea and enjoyed playing with friends, but at the time I didn't have really anybody to play with Helldivers, I guess. And that was kind of where I think it fell flat. It was really cool for the idea of you had these particular missions that you would jump into, and then you'd have to play through them. It felt pretty grindy. Like I had to do a couple of missions that felt almost exactly the same, with like a little bit of color changes on it, in order to boost up my level. And a lot of the time I was playing it by myself, and if somebody did drop in, they were trash. So all they would do would basically just double the amount of people I had to kill, which isn't really fun.
No.
But But yeah, overall though, it was still really fun. I really enjoyed playing it. It seemed like there was cool care taken into it to add a lot of extra stuff around the outside. Like there was like small little like cryptogram things or audio files you could find in crashed spots and learn a little bit of story about somebody working on some kind of like medicine or something. It was kind of cool. It definitely seemed like a labor of love from the people who created it. But yeah, I just couldn't get into it as far as spending the time and getting people together to like sit down and have concerted, play for missions. So
Yeah,
plus having three people limited lobbies, I just don't like.
I know
which
three's not enough.
I think that was the limit. It might have just been the missions I was playing, but I never played with more than 3 people at a time.
I think you could go up to 5 at some point, but it was definitely mission based.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I think that was that was kind of the point. I couldn't really hold my attention for long enough, which kind of blew my mind too, because I really was playing it during like the peak. Like I was like watching the Reddit, the subreddit, and people were talking about, oh, we're at like 75% of the star system over here. We're like pushing them back, and we're doing all this stuff. And then when I jumped into my game, it didn't feel like that. It felt like
right. You're like, what is going on?
We're overrunning everything.
Yeah.
I felt completely. I felt like I was living in a completely different world of like the other people who were enjoying the game at the same time. So
yeah, it's almost like one of those things, which I think it's a problem of all games that have large followings but don't have an in-game team finder. Like just any sort of like dungeon finder. Like Destiny struggles with this all the time. It's why they made LFG, because people would get on and be like, I love this game and I need somebody to play with. I don't have anybody to play with.
yeah.
So yeah, I feel like this game has a lot of texture too, which I thought was awesome, but I also did not finish it either because Liam played it and got to a way too high level, and then I was just left in the dust.
Was there like a proper campaign for this game?
It was just like the live.
I didn't play it at all, so I just knew there was missions and you would do them, and sometimes there was like dailies or weeklies or whatever that like people would go do specific missions, maybe on specific planets or something. But
yeah, nothing story based.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it just felt like a Star Wars Battlefront 2 campaign.
Yes, that's
like
exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what it felt like. Oh, I missed the star map.
Dude, the
yeah, exactly.
zooming in.
Yeah. So I guess this brings us to the top games that we played from 2024. The games that we were most excited about and played through and did all that kind of stuff. So I mean, I'll go to mine that I ended up playing through, which was, oh yeah, it's Astrobot. I don't know what it is about like little platformers, but they absolutely nailed this one. The theme, the color, texture, and the music in this freaking game is awesome. And it was just something I could pick up, play 1 or 2 levels and burn like 30 minutes into it and actually complete something and like progress the story by like 3 to 5% every time, and it wasn't a problem. It was like, this was like the main screen where you could choose kind of like the star map we're just talking about, where it's like Astro flies around on the controller, you pick a level. It's very, very much like Mario, and you could definitely tell that they took as much liberty to take as much as they could from the Nintendo IP and basically put a Sony skin on it, and I think they did a great job. They just used every trick they had in their book. They used the fancy controller to make everything feel different, so they use like the haptic triggers when you're using like the crab claw things, and it's just, yeah, it turned out to be a great game, and it is definitely jump boss. So if you don't like platforming games, this one gets very very hard. Like the stupid dancing mushrooms and like all this kind of stuff like moves. So it's just like, it feels like a 3D Mario game, but they turned it up to like 11 on some of the levels. Like I can't beat some of the really fast levels.
I have a really big problem with games like this. Everyone speaks really highly of it. You speak really highly of it. It wins Game of the Year. But when I look at this game, it makes me want to just play like Super Mario 64. Like I just want to go back and play the game that I know that I could spend I don't know, probably 20 to 60 hours in, depending on if I wanted to just beat the game or like 120 star run the game. Because I don't play that game so frequently enough that, I mean, I remember everything about it, but like it's not that I don't play it enough for it to be so redundant that I don't ever not want to play it again, you know, because I don't know, that was the first time I ever was introduced to, I guess, like a 3D platformer action adventure game, whatever you want to call it. And if I have that at my disposal, it's like, I just don't know. I mean, I'm looking at everything. Like, there's so many different things. There's so many new ideas and everything. But, like, I don't know, to drop $60 on a game that's going to scratch the same itch is just... That's a good
point, because I didn't even think of it that way. And, I mean, some of my favorite games are, like, for the GameCube, it's like the Super Mario Sunshine was one of my favorite games.
Mm-hmm.
And
Awesome.
I feel like this got very close to that, where it's like I feel like the Mario franchise, like the most recent one, what was it? The Mario Odyssey. Odyssey, I felt like it got to that because I feel like they never give Mario like stuff. They gave him a hat that time, and like for Super Mario Sunshine, they gave him like the water thing.
Yeah, flow.
Yeah, so you could actually you could interact differently. Like you could have some of your own input in the game and play differently if you were like bad or something. Like I remember the parts in Super Mario Sunshine where like they take away the backpack and you're just left with jumping, and I'm like, this is the hardest part of the game.
Yeah.
But they have those levels in this, and they're really hard, but they're optional.
So does PlayStation... I don't use my PlayStation is pretty much exclusively a DVD player. But do they have like a Game Pass, right? They have like PlayStation Plus that you can pay for and you get free games.
Yeah, you get like 2 free games.
It's not nearly as good as the Xbox One. I'll tell you that.
Is this game on that? Did they drop this?
Nope.
So no matter what, this game's just like $60. That ain't how it works.
Yeah,
that ain't it.
That's it.
Like I don't even care. Like it's so Sony coded and first party titles, and it's got all that, like all the collaboration with like God of War and Uncharted and Horizon, all that stuff. This is a game that needs to come like, I mean, they did it with like Astro's Playroom, right? Like that was almost pre-installed on all the PS5s when they came
I
out.
think they did a brilliant idea of making a game that was just fun to play and shows off the technology. I think you're completely right. It should come free on the frickin' PlayStation.
Or come included. Like I see this game coming included with the next, not gen, but if they do like a new version of the PS5, like Slim or whatever, you know, this gets included, or in like the next holiday bundle that comes out this year. That would
be nice. Yeah, because this is something that like I absolutely sunk like 40 or 50 hours into and finished the whole campaign and got most of the hard levels done because it was just great.
The thing is though, is they never really need to drive that. I don't know if you guys have seen like the recent sales reporting and everything, but like PS5 just blew the Xbox out of the water. Like it's just crazy.
I wonder why too. Like why is it so bad? Is it just because sales in the US are like Xbox is split between like PC and PlayStation, and overseas it's like PlayStation only?
I think we could probably talk for hours just on that.
We'll bring that topic up like, for a different talk.
I just don't see the value. I mean, like, I don't know.
It's just not
Game Pass obviously has such a big thing, focuses on like games on the Xbox, on PC, and stuff like that. And I look at PS5 and I see one handful, 5 or less, really good and like important IPs that exist on Sony, and that doesn't drive me to a $500 console. But like the
level
fact
was awesome.
Of the matter that Microsoft has like all of those game studios now, and those are coming day and date on Game Pass for free for only $10 to $20 a month, depending on it's wild to me that a game like this is not available on a PlayStation. You have to spend $500 on a high ticket item
plus
and then drop another $70 on a game. That's rough for something that is supposed to like showcase the features of the console and everything. Is like, that's tough.
Yeah, and I mean, I think this was received so well because they made Astro's Playroom free. If that was like a $5 or $10 game, it would feel really bad. No one would have bought this game. But because Astro's Playroom was so good to begin with, like the freaking free demo is awesome. It's at least worth 2 hours worth of time to go through and play. And then this game just knocked it out of the park.
I don't know. Maybe it's like our age too. Like I said, this gives me Super Mario 64 vibes.
It does.
It's the action adventure 3D platforming game that that was the one, that popped my cherry, and that's the one that I remember for forever. Maybe just in our 30s, like, I'm not interested in trying to be introduced to a new, like, titular character, like, new IP kind of thing, but maybe for 10-year-olds now that are getting PS5s for Christmas, maybe this is going to be their thing for the next couple decades. But, like, Mario's still around,
I know,
So,
I know.
I know, but
I want Wario
doesn't it
to
feel a
come
little dated at this point? Like,
That's
what I'll say is, I think this is
Yeah,
this is
100%.
this generation's Little Big Planet.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
I think Little Big Planet was the Sony character from a decade ago, maybe a little bit more.
Yeah.
It would have been 2013, right? So.
And I think this is just a more successful version of that, which is fine. I mean, Little Big Planet was like a 2D mostly platformer. It did have some 3D elements, but
I
for
think
the
they
most
were
part,
trying
it
the
was like a
same
2D
thing.
platformer.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
Look at
I
that.
just think
Paper
I think it just
Mario 2D.
I think this one just worked better.
I think what they did was they leaned on the Sony nostalgia thing. So like the whole first Astro's Playroom is like you're collecting the old things from PlayStation's like history. So you go around collecting game cards and weird controllers, and like everything you get as a trophy is like a piece of tech that was released at some point. So I think
Well, do you have like actual quests? Like you didn't really get that in Little Big Planet, right?
no, this was all level based, so you didn't actually have to do anything differently. So like you just complete the level and you're done. But
Yeah.
Let me ask you
Yeah.
this, Graham. This level that's being showcased right now. Do you have any idea
this is
what
the
it
Loco Roco level. Yeah, I played this.
Are you telling me that you played Loco Roco on the PSP when it came out? Because I'm the only person I know that played that game, and it probably sold like 5 units at GameStop back then.
That's so funny too. Yeah, I mean
That's what I'm saying. And look, this is This is 3D
Yeah.
Loco Roco. It was a PSP title, and like nobody I knew even owned a PSP.
no. I didn't play this then.
Slaughter
I
gave me
played
a
this
PSP.
like 2 summers ago.
I know. Slaughter had a PSP. I had a PSP.
I had a
That's it.
PSP as
And now
too,
you have
but
a
I always
PSP.
played Monster Hunter games.
Okay.
A PSP
We're the
is
4
worth about
people
$10 a
in
course to me.
Pennsylvania
So
Oh, I'm aware.
It's just like
But yeah, and I think this is why it did this well, is because they went through and they used literally all of their IP to try and make a 3D platforming game.
I know, but nobody knows what Loco Roco is. Like that's not nearly as I don't know.
Jason, why are you complaining
I
just to
don't know,
complain?
man.
What's going on here?
It sounds good. I liked it.
Because they're charging $70
Yeah.
for it. That's why. I'm
Oh,
listen,
okay, got it.
Mario 64 came out like in 1824. Okay, back when the Habsburgs ran Germany. So like we're okay. We need more games. We need more games like this. Those game styles were awesome, and they just need to keep creating them. And like the thing is, everybody's always going to want new stuff. Like that's the reason why what was it, Mario Odyssey? What was the one before it? It was like Mario Galaxy or whatever. Like
Galaxy
always
did
gonna
really
be-
well, yeah.
Yeah, it's like the same thing wrapped up and then different. I want to have new mechanics and new levels to go through. I can't keep playing the same game over and over again unless it's League of Legends and I'm just having a really bad weekend.
I mean, I totally,
no.
Almost
I
had
totally
me.
get it, Slaughter. I kind of agree with you because for me, this felt the same, but also fresh. Like as I was listening to it, and they have like, there's the big frickin' green tree at some point. He's in one of the pictures over here. And they give him like the deepest, soulfulest voice, and he's singing to like a funk tune, and it's just perfect. I don't know. It makes me stop thinking that I'm a 32-year-old man speaking about video games for children in his basement.
That's good. That's good.
So I will leave it there. Ethan, what was your favorite game of 2024?
I mean, you guys know this. I talk about it all the time. Balatro is definitely my game that came out in 2024. Not even
I thought you were
close.
gonna say Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion.
No. Yeah, Balatro. It's just so many great deep mechanics. The game is
CRT shader
it
on.
pretends to be something else. It's really a game about math. But it's just so good.
Yeah.
It's there, and it's so flexible, and it's so skill expressive. Where it's like when you start playing the game, it feels like such an accomplishment to win your first run on your first deck. You're like, wow, I have done it. I've made 100,000 points. I never thought I would actually beat this. And then you realize, somebody that has been playing for only like 2 or 3 more hours than you, they're like, oh, I just scored a 100 million point hand. And you're like, that sounds impossible. That's like, that number is too big. We're never going to be able to get there. And then you play that another 2 or 3 more hours and you can do the same thing. It's so rewarding. And when you get good, it does something similar to what Dark Souls games do, which is when you're playing Dark Souls and you run into a boss or you run into an enemy and you just get crushed for like 2 hours. And then you play the game and you get good. And later on, that boss is just like a random guy in a hallway. And you don't even think about it, and you just run through
Goat
it.
Ninjas on
You
God
just destroy
mode,
it.
man.
And so it's just like, exactly. It's just about getting that much better. And so it's like at this point, if I am playing the lowest difficulty, which took me hours to beat the first time, I don't even know. I think that all basic, like, lowest difficulty games can be won. I think it's possible. I don't think that there is a seed on the bottom, the lowest stake that you can't win. That's impossible.
Oh, that's
interesting.
I think you just have to get good, which is tough because that means you have to play and take time. But it's great. And the soundtrack for this game, while being super simple, is just incredible. It's so good.
it just hits.
So yeah, this is one of my favorite games that I've played in the last few years, let alone just last year.
Yeah.
Like, I put this up here with like other single player titles like Inscription or Slay the Spire or like these games that are just, I would say, some of my favorites in the last like 5 years or so.
So then
like,
I have a
thinking
question
about it.
for you. What's your favorite Joker?
Oh, okay. It's my favorite Joker. I can tell you what the best Joker is. The best Joker is Blueprint, and it's not close. But my favorite Joker, it's probably Square Joker.
Square Joker.
Square Man. He's just a little square guy. Square Joker will carry you through so many more games than you think is possible. And then we always got to shout out Photograph and Hanging Chad, because those two will also get you more gold stake runs. So where all of the other Jokers are like, rectangles, like playing cards, Square Joker is just a perfect square, and he's incredible. Also, I gotta say, the meme subreddit for this game is like top tier. It's so good.
Oh, that is r/balatro memes.
There's r/balatro, which is the regular one, but then there's r/okay buddy Jimbo, and it's so good.
What? All right,
Yes.
I need to get on there.
Because the basic
That's
Joker,
not a King of the Hill Reddit.
it's not because the basic Joker is called Jimbo, so it's just good. It's just so good. All right, but that's it. Balatro. If you haven't played it, you should. It's just the best.
All right, Jason. What was your favorite game
Balatro,
of
good
2024?
game. Favorite game of
Yeah.
2024. Quite a recent release. Came out in just December, so only 3 short months ago. Was Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. It is on Steam.
Yeah.
This game, I assume it did exactly what it was meant to do, and immediately got me subscribing to whatever the cheapest streaming service was to watch all the Indiana Jones movies again. I would love to see the metrics on Indiana Jones after this game's release. But developed by Machine Games, published by Bethesda, which I think falls under the same kind of umbrella as the newer Wolfenstein reboot games. And if you haven't played them, it obviously plays very similarly. I mean, it drops you. It's a pseudo open world RPG game where it drops you in a map, and the map is not the entire game, but it is an open world area. And there's a lot of verticality, climbing, whether you're in mountains or in a city, climbing buildings or going down to the sewers or down to caves and stuff like that. So there's a lot of verticality, moving around. Certain areas are locked until you find a certain guard that might have a certain key, and you can either, attack him and get it off of him, or you can steal it from him stealthily. So it's got all of the range of gameplay between stealth and kind of guns blazing mode.
Yeah.
Top that with it being, like a proper LucasArts or Lucasfilm Games property with Harrison Ford's likeness. Troy Baker does an absolutely astounding
Rushes
job as Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones. It was indistinguishable.
I didn't notice until you told me.
Oh yeah, 100%. This game's free on Game Pass. Go back to our
Huge,
Astrobot conversation.
huge
This game is
move.
free on
Yeah.
Game Pass. Get it on Game Pass if you have it, or get a free $10 whatever, 30-day trial to Game Pass and download this game and just play the intro mission or the prologue,
yeah.
which is just a 1-to-1 recreation of the opening scene of Raiders of the Lost Ark, including, Alfred Molina likeness and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's
like
hilarious.
down to a T. They do not skip anything in this game. They do not skip anywhere. It's just it had me in all the good feels, all the fuzzies, and then I just was like, well, I gotta go back and watch all the Indiana Jones movies. I didn't. I just watched Raiders, but this game is as close to the best video game adaptation of a movie I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's hard to beat it. And so when you go, I think we talked about this last time, but we forgot to record it. When you go into the actual game and you switch into the like cinematic mode,
Oh, yeah, like theater mode
it
almost.
looks
Yes, it
insane.
throws it in widescreen.
So it throws it in widescreen, and all you have is a little dot. And like occasionally you'll have
Yeah,
stuff on
it's-
the left if he's like drowning or like, out of something or really, really dying.
You've also got like the themes, the John Williams score from the movies, just plopped right into the game too, and all the right spots. And I mean, when I say recreation, like they even in this opening scene that like they're recreating the camera shots
It's wild.
as well in the cutscenes and stuff. I was grinning ear to
So
ear
was I.
this entire time. When I was like, this is what this game is gonna be, I'm getting happy just thinking about it right now. Like, oh my gosh, play the game.
So Slaughter, let us know what your top game from 2024 was.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I've even been thinking this entire like hour and a half of recording of trying to change my answer, but I think I really can. I think if you look at my Steam history, I definitely played a metric ton of Baldur's Gate 3 last year. Let me check actually. Hang on. I think I played like 400 hours. I played 485 hours of it.
Oh my god.
So, yeah. So I played an absolute ton of that game. Played a lot of different games as well that I was playing through. But yeah, I think for sure the best game that came out last year that I played was Marvel Rivals.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The reason being is that I'm 100% addicted to the style of like a ranked system and sitting there with a group of people and you get in and there's 100 different ways to kind of triage a fight. And trying to figure out what's going wrong, what's going right, and kind of win.
Right.
Yeah, and I feel like this game hit everything. This is like it's like the original Overwatch was taken and put together in a very similar format, and then they somehow got rid of a lot of the things that made that game annoying. One of the positive things about it is that the none of the characters seem super overpowered, and you'll hear a lot of people think about or talk about, this person's ultimate is like really bad, or this person's ultimate is just absolutely broken. But in reality, like all the characters are pretty well balanced with everybody. The coolest thing about it is that the fact that it's a Marvel,
I know.
the way I would
It looks
describe
so
it is
cool.
a really, really strong game. It's an incredibly strong game, and then they bootstrap the IP of Marvel to it. So the cool thing about it is that all the mechanics and everything are really strong, but at the same time, when you play as one of these characters, you really feel like them, which is really obviously it's really important if you're like, hey, I want to play as Iron Man. I'm going to go play this game where I play as Iron Man. It's really hard to make that work in a multiplayer setting, but this game does it really, really well. All the characters you can play are really strong. Everything's kind of split like a normal. What's the term for it? It's a normal team versus team setup for this game, where you have like tanks who are a little bit tankier.
Healers, DPS,
but then
all that kind of stuff.
Exactly, yeah. Healer, DPS. They call it a little bit differently. So like there's different ways to prevent damage. For instance, like you can do shielding or you can do healing. So like there's characters that are like they're support characters technically, or strategist, I think is the technical term for them in the game. And like strategists have different ways to shield people, different ways to control the map, different ways to heal people if they need to, and then their ultimates will do different things. So like the game feels very, it just feels
It's
great when
really
you're playing it.
put
It really feels
together
like you're
well.
making an effect.
Since you started with last time you told us about it, I downloaded and started playing it, and yeah, this is everything Overwatch wanted to be.
Oh yeah. Well, not even that. I think Overwatch was actually pretty well positioned to be like, this will be like the best game in the world, 100%. That's what it felt like. And I think that between a few different things, it just felt like they kind of destroyed that game. So I'm hoping that this game doesn't fall into that same issue. So like one of the big issues was in the original Overwatch, there really wasn't any imbalance. Because like when you're looking at character ults, for instance, the ultimates that they're going to be using, they're supposed to feel broken or supposed to have a big effect on the battlefield, right? And especially if you have 2 or 3 people using it at once, it's supposed to be a huge swing. Like you can go in with 4 ultimates and use them, and you 100% should win that objective that you're trying to win at that time. So the economy of it, saving the power ups and trying to time them at a good rate. Like, hey, there's 2 minutes left in this round. I should use my ultimate to win this fight right now. That way, in 2 minutes, I'm gonna have my ultimate again, so I can use it again. Like that whole thing should be part of the structure of the game. And what happened with Overwatch was they curtailed off a lot of the stronger ones. But the problem is that when you, like, for instance, like if you make DPSs weaker, or I'm sorry, if you make DPSs stronger because they don't feel weak, then now you need to make tanks stronger.
Yeah.
And now the tanks are strong and DPS are strong. Healers don't really matter anymore. So you got to like play a really weird balance game, and it's almost impossible to do when you're constantly moving those levers up and down. There's always going to be something that's going to be, basically unintentionally broken when you move that lever up, right? This game is just feels incredibly balanced in that regard. I don't feel like on the video show right now, it just showed up a team up activate, right? So there's a lot of different things in the game where right now it's supposed to change per season, I think, and we're just in the first season. So if you're playing a certain character, there's a team up action that will be like activated, and it can have varying differences in how that changes the game. So like one of the coolest ones that I like, you can actually be the Hulk and throw Wolverine.
Oh, that's cool.
So Wolverine, who's Wolverine's like a diving DPS guy. He's supposed to be tankier. So you can literally just be the Hulk and then pick him up and throw him across the map, and you throw him right into the back line of the enemy, right?
I mean,
feels phenomenal.
That's a thing from comics also. Normally it's Colossus, but it's called the fastball special. Like that's a thing. That is like
I think they have a lot of stuff like that too, because like when you're waiting for a match to start, they'll actually have like if 2 of the characters know each other or are enemies in like the regular Marvel comics, they'll like talk to each other, and it's fully scripted and like voice acted. And I was like, oh, this is awesome, because that makes it feel like you're playing a Marvel game versus just like a MOBA.
Yeah, it definitely felt like they put a lot of care into that for sure. Yeah, like to that point that like people banter, like Rocket and
Groot.
What's his name? What Rocket and the Winter Soldier? They'll banter.
Oh, really?
Like, so what do I gotta do to get one of them arms? And he goes, I don't know, just give me 2 raccoon pelts. And he goes, oh, well, thank God I'm not a raccoon, right? Like that kind of stuff happens. So, it's incredibly fun. And if you're into this type of game too, like I'm 100% just a sucker for this type of game where it's like, hey, there's a competitive ranked ladder, and you can work up and down in it. And the best part about it, into talking about League of Legends and my sadomasochism on that in the past, right? Is this game is actually pretty forgiving in that regard, where you can have 2 absolute like they just drug these people out of the depths of the ocean just to play this game for you right now. And if you have 3 or 4 other stronger people on your team, you can still you can drag them through. Like it's not really that difficult. There are definitely times where like if all 6 people on the other team are just they're just on it, they're just on everything, you're gonna lose no matter what. But it does absolutely feel like you can really have like 1 or 2 people on your team make a significant difference because of the plays that they're able to make or just their general skill level. The ladder's also really forgiving. So I've already hit diamond, which is like the
damn,
puts you into like the top 1% of the people in the game. And so the way that it works is there's kind of like a shield to help you. Like generally speaking in these games, because of how MMR works, you'll normally not lose more than like 2 games in a row. And this game's pretty forgiving the fact that as long as you're not losing more than 2 games in a row, you're constantly going to be increasing rank because you get like 20 more points than you lose when you lose, if that makes sense.
Oh, I
So
see.
like you could go like win lose and rank up twice. You know what I mean? You only need, I think it's like a 42% win rate to consistently win all the way up to like grandmaster.
That's kind of cool.
Crazy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a proponent
yeah,
too. I downloaded it like a week after you told us about it, and I was like, oh man, I like this game.
Yeah, I didn't want to download it either too, but then one of my friends that out here in the Great White North, now one of my other friends, they were like, hey, this game's actually free and it's actually
Dude,
great. And
that's the big selling
play
point.
some Marvel game.
That was what that's exactly what I said too. I was like, a Marvel game? I'm not a child. And I was like, I'm not gonna. And it was like, hey, buddy, hey, this crack, it's free. Don't worry. And you're like, all right, I'll give it a try. I'm a little drunk already. And then you try it, and you're like,
See,
oh,
I
this is kind of fun.
I didn't end
Yeah.
up playing it because Overwatch was my life for like a year or so. And so
Really?
oh yeah, I was playing duos with Kurt enough that I was like mid to high diamond. I
Wow.
was like, get
I
me
did not know
out
that.
of here.
So like commercially,
Yeah.
I'll say commercially because I'm sure there's there's probably something else, but like commercially, was Overwatch the first of its kind?
I want to say it was the
Kind of.
first to do it on
Yeah,
all
kind of.
platforms.
The first mainstream one. But
Sure.
they
That's
have
that's all I'm saying.
they Slaughter was earlier talking about like levels, like having to worry about scaling DPS too high because you have to scale tanks. Overwatch really had its first drop off because they had overtuned tanks and undertuned DPS. Like there was a big balancing issues that they ran into because there was, I remember because I was playing in high ELO at that point, there was something that was a triple tank double healer meta. And so it was like DPS were so bad compared to tanks that you just would
Roadhog.
run one DPS as a sniper because you could kill their healers and everyone else was playing tanks or healers. Because it did matter. Like, why would I play a guy with 150 health that does good damage when I could play a guy with 600 health that does good damage?
Yeah.
Like, so
Yeah.
it seems...
So did they fix that with Overwatch 2?
And well, the problem is that there
No
there
one I
was
know plays
like
that game.
beta-
already the competitive meta was bad. And then when they had promised, to fix it in Overwatch 2, people decided to stick with it because it was, a game that they liked, but they were like, okay, the problems will be fixed with Overwatch 2, even though we weren't supposed to get it. And they promised a really cool PvE
I
experience
know.
with like its own full game, and we were like, okay, we can hold off. And then they were like, no PvE, and now it's only 5 players, and that was it. That was like we heard the death knell of Overwatch,
Yeah.
and it went from being like they were in talks, like the Overwatch League was like in talks of building a new stadium in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Because the Philly Overwatch team was really good. They were the Philly Fusion. Like, good enough that, again, they were going to build a stadium for this Overwatch League.
Damn.
And then it just,
insane.
I had never seen an esport crash faster. More people still watch StarCraft Brood War than Overwatch.
Oh my.
So,
Okay.
it's tough.
Yeah.
That's tough.
I think they.
Well, Marvel Rivals
Yeah,
looks like
I'll be
fun.
playing some more. So let me know. Slaughter, what do you want to play?
Oh yeah. Listen, I'm playing all the time. So yeah, I'll be honest. One of the best things about it, because Jason, you were talking about kind of like dipping in and getting in.
I was just about to say
I got, like,
that.
5 minutes, I just got killed time. Dude, this game.
Yeah.
Even in like the way that they structure, especially a lot of stuff like overtime and stuff like that, which normally in Overwatch, you could sit down and a match could take 40 minutes because you're running overtime for so long back and forth, like on the switch, on like not on the, you know what I mean, like when you're
Switching
sides, of the map and
sides,
everything,
yeah.
like overtime could run like 10-15 minutes itself, just running like overtime, trying to get everybody off the point, and then you switch and then you start playing the other way. Like this game, the way that they have it set up is the overtimes run really fast. So worst case scenario, I'm in a game for like 20 minutes. And best case scenario, like if you absolutely blow somebody out of the water, it's like a 5-minute game.
Yeah, they did an amazing job.
Yeah. In Overwatch, there were multiple games that would be like 10 minutes of overtime defending on specific maps in Overwatch because the spawns were like a 2-second walk onto the point.
Jeez.
It was awful. The Volskaya Industries map, you would just be in overtime for like 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's too much.
Yeesh.
But yeah, no, I'm sold. It's the free cost, the buy-in. Oh, so low. That's $70
I mean, that's
buy-in.
a huge bonus. No.
Yeah.
If the game is free, it's hard. That's a hard number to beat.
I know. I'm like, you know what?
The game is free. It's for me.
That's too funny. But yeah. Cool. All right. Well, I think that wraps up all of our different games for 2024. Well, at least games that we played in 2024, even if they weren't from it. And I think that's the end of the first episode of Pie Talk. So we'll do this again. Let us know down in the comments if you guys want or have any sort of topics that you want us to talk about related to gaming, tech, movies, whatever we're interested in talking about. And looks like I got to go download Satisfactory. We'll talk to you guys later.